This episode is brought to you by Allstate. Some people just know they could save hundreds on car insurance by checking Allstate first, like to check the date of the big game first before you accidentally buy tickets on your 20th wedding anniversary and have to spend the next 20 years of your marriage making up for it. Yeah, checking first is smart. So check Allstate first for a quote that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Savings vary. Terms apply. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Northbrook, Illinois.
Ampire. Hey, babies. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Oh, the week's going fast here, brother. It's going fast.
That's Saturday.
Motown soon.
That Saturday kick made the enjoyment last just a touch less. I'm still enjoying it, but yeah, the look ahead happened fast yesterday.
Are you going?
No, are you kidding me?
I don't know. You went to Tampa. I don't know.
Have you seen the prices? It's statistically the most expensive NFL game in history, not being a Super Bowl.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. This fan base is starved and is on a joyride and is all in. And that fan base, they are the vultures circling the red meat, waiting to jump on it and peck at its, bones. So it's perfect storm. I mean, we saw this, it started a year ago. We're a year behind them. We're a year behind them. It started a year ago. Remember that opening night in Kansas City and there were Detroit fans everywhere?
Yep.
And we were like, whoa, how many other people got into Arrowhead on opening night when they're raising a banner? Yeah. It was like, wow. So they became a traveling circus because they're waiting for this to happen and they want it to happen. And they have a chance to host the NFC Championship game. And they've been the best team in the league this year, 15-2 and point differential. It's preposterous, plus 220. It's crazy. That's close to one of the best ever. It's crazy the year they've had. So they're ready to take their victory lap and they've been waiting for it for a long time. So it's perfect storm for the tickets. How did you think you were going to get into that? It didn't really matter who they played. It was going to be very, very hard to get into that.
No, it's actually really funny. Ticket prices, they went up slightly when the Commanders won, but it wasn't crazy. The get in before the game even started was $700, I think. It's only gone up $100. Not this crazy amount because of the Commanders. It was like that before heading in. I just want to file away for later, though. You mentioned Kansas City opening night. The Chiefs win a Super Bowl. We're on their schedule next year. Just staying there. Maybe the league will want Jaden Daniels on opening night against the Chiefs. Just throwing it out there, way, way, way ahead of time.
I was talking, I did the live stream with Keim last night. We were just kind of going through it and it just kind of hit me. I mean, not that this is some kind of revelation, but if they win this game, they're in line for maybe the greatest season any team has ever had in professional sports, or at bare minimum, the greatest turnaround ever.
Yeah.
Across the board, the greatest turnaround ever. And, I think they're underdogs. And I'm not shy in saying, I think, that team over there is ridiculous, and so this is a really tall task. The setup sucks. The NFL having a team play on Sunday night and then turn around and play on Saturday, that's a little much. That's an ask, especially for the other team being off a bye. That's a bit of an ask, but whatever. I'm not complaining. It just is what it is. There's no chance on earth that if somehow Minnesota or Washington lost and it was between Minnesota or the Rams to go there, that they would have made them play on Saturday, right? There's no way. So, I'm a little surprised that that's what it is. I kind of feel like the two bye teams should play on Sunday no matter what, just because the teams the week before are playing. But I guess they earned the advantage by having the record that they had. They get a major advantage here. And it's going to be something else. If they pull it off, it's an upset for sure. It's an upset. And it's an all-time upset for this franchise if they do it. And they've had some classic, playoff wins. One happened a few days ago, but this is going to be up there if they pull this off. Outside of Super Bowls, the NFC Championship over Dallas to get to the first Super Bowl, this is going to be ranked up there among the greatest moments in team history if they pull this off this weekend.
No, 100%. And I think it's one of those things where I felt going into last week, and I used the word tier. The Buccaneers are the same tier as this team, as Washington. But it felt a little house money-ish. Like, no one thought they were going to win 12 games. I do not care how optimistic you were. No one thought that was going to happen. And it felt house money-ish last week, but not as much as normal, only because they're on the same level as the Bucs, and you thought if they had a chance to win the game at the end, they would. Yeah. This one seems like a much taller task, a much bigger mountain to climb than heading into Tampa to play against the Bucs, which you and I, once again, we both know this. So many Washington fans went into that place because it's not a hostile environment. The fan base there is different. This is a totally different animal going up to Detroit.
100%. So as they like to put it, they've been in a few heavyweight fights. I agree. The Tampa one early, I thought was really a bad draw for them. They played a team that was coming back that's all together at home. They're a playoff team. They've been a playoff team. They looked like a playoff team. And I thought it was just a tough draw to get for the first go for this group. And you see what 18 weeks later looks like for this group, which I think is what's really promising about them. Then they played Baltimore. Well, they played Cincinnati. Might have been a very different game at the end of the season than the one early, but still, they played them there. That was another real test. That game looks way different now, than it did back then.
Yep.
Everybody was poo-pooing it. Well, they must stink now. Well, they don't. And then the Baltimore one was the next really big one, and it felt like the real first big game because Washington had solidified itself as, okay, they can hang with good teams. Let's see what happens here. And I don't think that game was as close as the score suggested that it was. I think the word they used that day was lopsided, and I actually thought that was right for the way that they put it. Then as the season kind of progressed, they could have, would have, should have beat Pittsburgh. The Dallas one was one that got away from them. The Philly one I chalked up as, you know what? That's just a terrible turnaround. 3 days later to go play them. We need a bye. Our quarterback's kind of hurt, and they hung in there, but they lost. It was predictable that they lost. The next big test was Philly again, and they answered it. We're the only team to beat them in the last 3.5, 4 months, which really I don't know why there's seemingly no pause up in Detroit about what's coming there, because you could sit there, if you're not paying attention, and go, they win every game on the last play, that's got to end, or they're lucky, or that's not that good. But if you really watch how they got to it, calm, poise, execution, and then the wherewithal to come back, because that's part of this too. They were down 10 at home to Atlanta. Their season was on the line, came back, won. They gave up 5 turnovers, a 6th if you count a turnover on downs, to the other best team in the NFC, came back and won anyway. So anybody up there that is underestimating this or looking at it as, well, how could someone just win all these close games? It's got to turn at some point. Do yourself a favor, or don't actually, and actually watch these games, because you'll be far more scared about what's going to happen if this game is close in the fourth quarter, because I've seen it over and over and over. There's nothing lucky about it, and there's no accident about what's going on here right now.
And there's 2 instances where the defense might have prevented 2 of them from happening. You go to that Cowboys game, they should have come back, right? But they blow it on the kickoff. That's technically special teams, not the defense. But there's that one. And then I'll argue this too. If Johnny Newton doesn't jump off sides in the Steelers game, you don't know what they're going to do if they get the ball back there too.
They got a better spot on the Zach Ertz catch in the Pittsburgh game. I said it after that Pittsburgh game. I go, both of those plays, what got robbed was another comeback.
Yes. So we're actually there's 2 that didn't happen, mainly just because of circumstances in the game. And yes, you play the game. I'm not dumb over here. But there's 2 more you could lump in there if they had actually gone their way and the offense got the ball back in their hand, and they didn't in both cases.
So I want to get to Detroit a little bit. So these guys did a podcast. And
not a real radio show. Not a real radio show. I want to just say that out loud.
That's right. Well, but I mean, what's media now these days?
Yeah,
I mean, it's really any of these things. I'm watching Caleb Williams do an interview about being catfished on Amon-Ra St. Brown's podcast. That's his coach he's talking about. He got catfished by who might be his coach down the road, who's actually coaching the other guy's team this weekend. Like, we're crossing the streams big time now, guys. Like, this is full Ghostbusters. Don't cross the streams. Like, the fourth wall, the fifth wall, and the sixth wall are down now in media when that's happening.
That's right.
But there is this podcast, and like from the file of Use Anything, I don't know who these guys are because I don't want, like, it's the same thing as Maniac and Degenerate Al in Buffalo. I don't know who these guys are.
Longtime fans.
And I'll give them credit. They did a clip that got viral for them, which is the purpose of what they're doing. I don't think they speak for Detroit, but they might a little bit. And I'm not even going to play it. Essentially, their position was, we're a little bit lucky. Our crappy run defense and our rookie quarterback are not going to come here and rain on our parade. We've been waiting our entire lives to host the NFC Championship game. We have the team to do it. You know it. We're unstoppable. And you're a nice little story, but we're going to crush you, was the energy that they gave. And I just tweeted it out and I wrote, interesting.
Yeah.
Because this is, I think, in general, would any team that has I think the Tampa people were, when I did interviews down there, they were legitimately concerned. They thought their team was going to win, but they were legitimately concerned. I have a funny feeling that these guys aren't too far off of the feeling there that while they think Jaden's really good, it's impossible not to see it or admit it, or that it's impossible to overlook how many games they won and how many they've won in a row, and in some cases lately, who they've beaten. But they think they're different. They don't think we can play with these guys. And I was waiting for this. Would we get something out of there that suggested that they just flatly believe they're better than them by a lot and will literally say it? And while these two guys aren't, Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, I do think that they've tapped into what I thought would be the feeling here, that they feel like that we're just a plucky little fun story that's not a real threat to them. And they're in for a big surprise if that's actually what they think is happening this weekend.
It's very funny. I've used this phrase all season long. It's very easy to figure out who knows ball and who doesn't. And it was very fast when all he was saying was rookie quarterback and bad run defense that, oh, you haven't watched any of the games. That's fine, but don't act like you have. I'll go a step further and say this is bold, and I tweeted this yesterday. This is bold coming from a fan base in a city that has never won an NFC championship game, that has been a doormat for the league pretty much since the AFL, NFL, or NFC merger. And here's the other thing. I'm all about being humble when you're in one of these positions. I'm sorry, your franchise had not one, but two future Hall of Famers retire early because you were such a terrible franchise. So let's just pump the brakes here on year 3 of a coach that matches your energy and you guys are winning and all of this. But go ask the Bears fans who played 7 games this year and started puffing their chest out and saying, Caleb's the guy. And this franchise broke that franchise. Broke them for the rest of the season because they started getting too big for their britches. I'm not saying Lions fans are that. They were the 1 seed. They killed everybody all year. But a shred of humility would go a long way, because do not forget where you just came from literally 3 years ago.
Yeah, I want to be very clear here. They have an incredible team there.
Yes.
I'm aware of it. And they are formidable. And I hate the setup. This get home at 3 a.m. on Monday, have a shortened week, turn around and fly there. It's not Tampa. It's not lovely weather for a minute, and then turn around and play on a Saturday night, which is weird. You never play on a Saturday night. That's going to be weird for them too, but it's weird for us. And they got to bye, and they're a superpower this year. And so I don't for a second, I'm not calling anything here, but if that energy is actually in their locker room, they're in trouble. I don't think they know what they're about to meet, because I don't put anything past this team any longer. I think they should be the underdog, but I think they can win. And I don't think it's going to take that much. And I'll tell you what, that place is sphincters across the board is going to get tight in the fourth quarter if that's a 1-score game, because by the time we get to Saturday, they're going to have seen how many times this quarterback has done this. They better be up 2 scores, and they better be up comfortably. Because if they're not, that place is going to get real tense real fast. It's going to feel like Game 7 in a hockey arena. It's going to get real tense up there.
I'm glad you brought that exact analogy up, because it's exactly what I was thinking. When the Caps had Ovechkin in those first Rock the Red era, those first few years were awesome because you were flying high. It was the beginning of something. Then they had lost like 4 straight playoff series, and you and I know how it felt in that building, not in the second round, but in the first round, right out of the gate, how it would feel when they were playing the Rangers or the Flyers or then playing the Penguins, where it would be Game 5 and this fan base would start wigging out about losing, and they ultimately would until 2018, right? This has been one of the good and bad things about this offense over these last 5 or 6 weeks. Jaden and this offense stay medium. They don't go crazy. Right. They just execute to a normal level. They're not pouring points on anybody. But what it does is it keeps the other team level here. And it just keeps the game close. Close game in that place with those fans. Yeah, there's a little Game 7 hockey energy there because they're going, oh crap, the script is actually playing out in front of us.
Yes. The way those guys spoke, and again, it might be off. I don't think they are entirely. I have a feeling that, like, just how we talk about our teams, and we could be overconfident at times and not at other times, or maybe underconfident and like underappreciated. Like, there was a period of time early in the season where we were going, is this real? Because we weren't sure, like I really wasn't sure, like, how could they keep doing this? Because it really it kind of flies in the face of everything you know about team sports and how a team comes together. There's a couple things that are going to happen this weekend. If they lose, which is expected, and it's really, really close, then I think the comparison will be, they're kind of cut from the same cloth. They kind of are building in the same way. They have a very charismatic, different personality, but very charismatic coach who really connects with their players, connects with the city, connects, like, bringing this culture that everyone talks about. It's real in both of these places. They obviously have quarterbacks that play at a very high level, very different types of quarterbacks, but they play at a very high level. They're building. Washington's roster isn't as built as Detroit's is right now. And the object is, we think, Adam Peters, Lance Newmark, and that company, they're going to get it there in a couple of years. We're a couple of years behind them. But if we beat them, we're not them. We're on track to be the Chiefs. And that ought to scare the crap out of everybody. Because if we can win a game like this now, when we're not even anywhere close roster-wise to what full capacity will look like, watch out. We're at the beginning of something even better and more different than I thought it was a few weeks ago.
You can go rewind the tape of me and you talking in August and doing preseason and predictions and stuff. And I had said at multiple points, the worst nightmare for the Lions is staring us in the face and having that guy work out at quarterback. Because let's just say we don't win this weekend. Let's just say Detroit does win, but it goes down to the wire. Well, that's phase 1, because I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last time we meet you guys in the playoffs. That's and right. Guess what? New revamped roster, another year of experience. Like, I don't know. I'm going to start taking number 5 over Jared Goff. Like, that's what I'm getting at here is all you have to do is you just have to Empire Strikes Back this thing. You just got to put the fear of God in them, and it's going to go, okay, yes. Maybe not this year, but next year, oh boy, good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, this is set up for... And again, like, we're a few steps away, and I really just want to stay in the moment. If they pull off the dream scenario and we're in New Orleans and playing somebody, you're going to start talking about this very differently about where we're at and what this season actually was. It's going to be a movie. It's going to be novels. They're going to do oral histories of this. Like, we're in the midst of literal history, the greatest turnaround in sports history. If they lose, it's expected. But if they win this one, and then they win in Philadelphia next week, it's very possible that would be...
Or LA, I mean.
or LA, but I mean, really Philadelphia, because those are the 2 teams that everybody thinks are the best teams this year. Well, now, like, they didn't even get the easy road to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
And all of a sudden, I think you start looking at this and going, wait a minute, what is this? This is not only do we have a one-of-one quarterback, but they have the building blocks of potentially a dynasty. And that is what's really crazy about this game this weekend, which is also why I look at them and I go, guys, you haven't really won anything yet. And I love your team. You guys are awesome. Your offense is incredible to watch. They're the only team that has 4 skill players with over 1,000 scrimmage yards. They're incredible. Goff is incredible in this offense. Their line's incredible. Their defense, I feel for them. They're missing a lot of people. They could be even better. They know this. They could be even better. They could be unstoppable. But because of that, they're not. But they're still and should be favorites here. They still should win this game. They're still the home team off a bye, playing a team off a short week that, as of 7 months ago, met for the first time. So they should win this game. But if they don't, this may change the trajectory of both of them for a long time. A long time.
No, and that's why I brought up the past here. Like, remember where you were 3 years ago. I'm not even talking a long time ago. Like a shred of humility by whoever that host was. It would have been, at least somewhat respectable. But when you're acting like that, when you've come that far and you have no championships to your name and you lost in the NFC Championship game the way that you did last year, when you should have beat the 49ers, you let Brock Purdy beat you. Like, I'm just saying that's a lot of puffing your chest out with zero history is what I'm getting at.
So, I remember last year, I have a good friend of mine, old college roommate of mine, who's from Kansas City. He's a big Chiefs fan. And he flies back to games all the time. He's a huge Chiefs fan. And what a time to be alive.
Sure. Yeah, as you should, right?
And he said to me last year, I remember I was texting him before the Super Bowl, and he goes, you guys all blew it. He goes, this was the year to beat us. But he had the right to say it.
Yeah.
Because they've done it so many times. And he's like, guys, this is the weakest version of the team that we've had in this run. It's only going to be better from here forward. Yeah. And unless Mahomes gets hurt, you guys are all screwed. And I actually I thought it was actually very level, even keeled, and on the nose. Like, it's the truth. If the Lions had already won 2 Super Bowls at this point, I would hear it out with, do you really think you're going to walk in here with your run defense and your rookie quarterback and beat us? But for the team that's never been to the Super Bowl, let alone won it, to sit there and actually have that kind of energy towards anybody at this point, I think is a bit misplaced, is the way I would put it. I still think you're the favorite to win, but I will not be surprised for a second if we walk out of there winning that game, especially if that's how your locker room feels about it going into it. Because the reality is they haven't won a championship yet. They don't have the basis of telling everybody else you're walking into the gods of this league right now. You haven't been that yet. And you might do it this year, but show me. Show me first before you tell me about it.
The one thing I would say that reassured me that they're not disrespecting this team was the clip of Dan Campbell talking about Jaden just being like, this guy doesn't play like a rookie. He's a difference maker. I think someone said, how do you handle a running quarterback? And he was like, tell me who does handle a running quarterback well. Like, the respect was fully on display there from Campbell, which I'm not saying he wouldn't have done that, but it was like, okay, the building isn't delusional. And not to say that Campbell was going to give them bulletin board material heading into that game, but he did fully kind of bend the knee to Jaden Daniels on that quote.
I think you should. In the same way I would say this about Goff when he was traded there. I didn't know how that would go. He's really good in that offense. He should get a lot of credit for what he does in that offense. I know everyone gives the credit to the offensive coordinator. Their line is outstanding. They put a lot of assets into that. Everyone laughed at him when they picked Jahmyr Gibbs. You laughing at him now with this guy with 20 plus touchdowns and 1,800, scrimmages. No, you're not laughing at him now, are you? Amon-Ra is there, Terry. Everyone said he's okay. Nope. He's a number one on that team. And the one thing, and I haven't watched enough, and I'm going to talk about it later this week, the thing that scares me is I can't remember the last time we played a speed receiver like Jamison Williams. It's been a while. We haven't had a matchup like that where we've had a pure, true speed, take the top off threat. Maybe Devontae Smith to some degree, but I'm not even sure he's got this guy's speed. So they're scary, right? They're really scary. But just one final thing on them, where I think in both cases, the numbers don't tell the story about either one of them. Like if you look at Jaden, we have a top 5 rush offense. It doesn't look like it for like 5 weeks running now. Jaden is actually like 15th in passing yards, but I bet in passing efficiency or quarterback rating, he's top 2 or 3. Don't let the numbers fool you. Like they have, I saw this the other day. I was doing some of the prep for the game. Their pass defense is 30th in the league, but don't let that fool you. They have the second lowest quarterback completion percentage. People are so far behind against them. They're constantly throwing on them. So the ranking is only reflective of how many yards they're giving up, not how effective they actually are. And then their run defense, it's actually 5th fewest in the league. However, they give up almost 5 yards a carry. So again, it goes back to their offense is so good. Teams have to get away from whatever they want to do. And the numbers here are skewed. And I guess is my point on both sides. So when I hear somebody take a ranking like that, I could sit there and go, okay, good luck with Detroit's dumb 30th ranked pass defense. Except that the quarterback completion percentage against them is the second best in the league. So I think Big D energy guys, be careful, because I would not broad brush this team in the same way that we down here are definitively not with you guys. We know what we're walking into, but we're not scared. You guys, I don't think you know what's about to show up there. And I think you should have a bigger, higher modicum of respect for it, because I've never seen a team execute like this consistently, have a brotherhood, like the same way that you guys totally understand it. And this team is poised beyond belief. I defy you. Give us a situation in the fourth quarter in a 1-score game. You are going to be shocked what ends up happening to you.
I mean, the other side of all of this too is like, yes, it's heading into your place, but I have yet to see it where you have made that next jump. How many years did we talk about the Capitals that they couldn't get past the second round? And when they did, they won the Stanley Cup, right? They got their flowers. But you made it to the NFC Championship last year. Your decision-making screwed things up, and ultimately you didn't win that game either. So I'll believe it when I see it. But once again, just an ounce of self-respect or respect for the team coming in would have made us a little bit better. And the other thing that bothered me about that rant was the constant, we're 60 minutes away from hosting the NFC Championship. I'm sorry, Guy, are you looking ahead as a Lions fan? You're looking ahead to the NFC Championship game? Like, I could never, as a Caps fan, as a Nats fan, as a Commanders fan, I would never look ahead like that ever. And like I said, it's bold. It's just bold coming from anyone.
Look what happened a week ago. Rex Ryan said it's a bye week for the Chargers. The Texans heard it and said, oh, really? Is it?
Yep. Right. Exactly right.
The team that hasn't won a playoff game and I can't remember has a bye week. Really? Is it?
Exactly. Like I would never, like, you have the type of ignorance that maybe Golden State or Lakers fans or those types of dynasties have, or Patriots fans. I think Patriots fans were more than, in the right to do that. It's just a little bit ridiculous. That's all. Little bit ridiculous. When you win that,
like, this is why, like, we haven't won in a long time. We ain't overlooking anything. I'm fully confident in what I see. I am fully confident that they're capable of anything at this point. But there's not even an iota in me that would overlook a thing, nor do think anything's a guarantee with this team at this point.
I think this Commanders fan base isn't overlooking any game, let alone the next quarter, let alone the next drive.
Correct.
I mean, we are fully living every single play as it happens. Don't even talk to us about 60 minutes.
That's right.
We're talking about right now.
Yeah. Try the first quarter, Guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
right. Right.
Yeah. All right. Let me take a quick break. Very much the show, ESPN 630 Sports Capital. welcome back. So the other thing they have to deal with, we are too, actually, is the coaching cycle is involving all of the coordinators now. I saw Joe Witt got an interview with the Jets. He's going to be impressive to them. I don't know if they'll hire him or not, but, I didn't know a lot about him when he got here. His press conferences are can't miss. And today, he'll be doing his today. They're can't miss. He's also, like Quinn, very thorough. He reads to me like a head coach. So I hope we don't lose him very quickly here, but I'm glad to see he actually got the opportunity. Cliff, of course, his name is going to go through the cycle. I don't feel like if you're just reading the tea leaves that either one of them are leading candidates to be anywhere. And I'll stick to, I really think Cliff is more likely to stay here than to go anywhere else unless he gets overwhelmed with some kind of offer. That's what's different for the Lions too, which as we were talking about earlier, there's going to be a lot of change there after this year. They're going to have a very good team coming back next year, no matter what happens, but they could easily lose both of their coordinators. Like both of them could end up going. I think Aaron Glenn could be the head coach of the Jets or the Saints. I think Ben Johnson will be a head coach somewhere. I don't know where. I think Vegas has a legit shot at him if he doesn't want to go to Chicago or Chicago doesn't end up wanting him. The fact that they're talking to Mike McCarthy now, the fact that preemptively kind of came out, I do feel like is, a little bit, maybe that's their preferred choice, that they want somebody who's been there, done that over the young guy, even as hot as his offense may look and what his reputation is. I do think one or both are going to be gone after this year. So it's another reason why, guys, things change fast. Like, look what happened to the Eagles a year ago when they lost their two coordinators. All of a sudden, they had a flop year where they were talking about changing everything again. So there's no guarantee after this one that Detroit's going to be the Detroit team that you have grown accustomed to over the last couple of years if both of them go.
No, 100%. To the Cliff Kingsbury, Joe Witt Jr. stuff, I didn't want to say it out loud on the air, but I think Joe Witt Jr. is the actual head coaching candidate that should be getting a little more run. Like, you talk about a guy that's a leader of men. I mean, that to me is like your prototypical type of head coach that just is a leader and doesn't have to worry too much about the actual offensive or defensive side of the ball. So yeah, on that front, the Jets, okay, you interviewed Ron Rivera, but you did also interview Joe Witt Jr. I'll give you a little bit of props for actually turning every rock over. On the Lions side of things too, they are on the heater of all heater. I mean, that Vikings game officially broke Sam Darnold. Like, the Lions actually, like, in my opinion, beat them twice without playing them.
That's
because
right.
The Rams just took what they did and were like, oh, we're just going to blitz the crap out of Darnold and we're going to win this game. They held him to 9 points, just like Detroit did. So they are both very, very, very good right now. With Ben, though, I will say, Ben is not going to have the same type of cast of characters wherever he goes. He's going to have to acquire that a little bit, but who knows? Maybe he can actually scheme some things up and actually cover that up.
I honestly think Darnold, the last couple of weeks, that was crazy after all those wins. I think it's a hard sell to anybody's fan base that you're going to pay him $30 to $40 million and claim him to be your starter. I actually think that that's going to be a tough sell now because everybody saw it and they broke him bad, like really bad. And they're missing a lot of people. That was very it's why I fully respect them. That week 18 game where they just throttled them told me everything I need to know about them. They're serious, those guys.
With Darnold too, we've seen this a couple times in NFL history where a guy will have 1 to 2 to 3 good games and get a bunch of money. Like, I think the guy that comes to mind is Matt Flynn way back in the day. Remember, he had like 3 good games with the Packers. The Seahawks signed him, but then ultimately drafted Russ. The rest is history, so it didn't matter. I don't think I've seen a case like this, though, where a guy had his team up to 14 wins and probably went from like 45, 50 million to 20 next year. I mean, like, I don't know what the number is, like, but losing out on that and everyone going, oh, that's Sam Darnold. Like, I've never seen anyone lose that money that fast.
2 weeks ago, people were trying to figure out where J.J. McCarthy was getting traded to.
Right. Or
they're trying to figure out where is Darnold going to go and how much money is in it.
Or it was, are the Niners going to trade Brock Purdy and sign him? Like, I mean, we were having those discussions. Like, no chance that's happening.
No chance. As for McCarthy, so he's interviewing with them. before he and the Cowboys split up, Schefter put out a report like it isn't a done deal that he'll go back there. And not just because whether Dallas is trying to figure out whether they want him. It's because he wants to figure out what he wants to do, which I read as a pure leverage play. And frankly, the type of agent BS that makes the rounds this time of year. That turns out not to be, it actually turned out to be way more accurate and on the nose than I thought it would be. I thought for sure he was going to go back there to Dallas. Now he's not. I bet there's part of him that wants to go to Chicago because he wants to compete with Green Bay. That's probably part of it. And I think he was kind of done with the Jerry circus too. And I don't think he enjoys Stephen A. making fun of his team every other day. And it's a big personality place. And frankly, Mike doesn't have a big personality, which I think makes it help, I think helps him fit in a little bit. But maybe he wants a little more credit for what he's doing when you win 12 you get 12 win seasons 3 years in a row, and everyone's pointing to everybody but you, or saying like you need to go all the time when you would that gets tiresome. So I don't know how this is going to go. I have a feeling this is all about like who does Caleb like? Frankly, Aaron Rodgers has a Hall of Fame career. He played in the majority of it for Mike McCarthy. And Dak was a near MVP 2 years ago, pre-injury, when Mike McCarthy was the lead play caller. So he might be, open your mind, Chicago, he might be the right guy for you. And you clearly need somebody who's going to give you stability, and he will definitely give you that for sure, too.
No, 100% right. I mean, McCarthy, look at what he was working with in Dallas. I'm not saying he's working with nothing, but he had Dak, he had CD, didn't really have much of a running game. Tony Pollard was probably the best running back he had while he was there. Like, not saying Pollard's bad, but like not this elite running back, but those skill position players are not Chicago's skill position players. Like what was the storyline all year was how is Chicago's offense that bad with that many players that are stars? And it's the offensive line, but still, I think McCarthy is going to figure out how to just game that up a little bit with Caleb.
As for the Cowboys, well, Deion, I think, wants the job. That's my read on it. Because he gave a quote that was kind of vague to first he talked to Schefter about it, then he spoke to him. Michael Irvin said, what was it, 2-3 months ago, and sitting next to Jerry Jones on some set, like, I've already talked to him about this. And it was, I think I mentioned this on the show weeks ago before the first Dallas game against Washington. I'm like, it's widely known that this is Mike McCarthy's last year there. When they turned things around, the way that they turned it around, and they already paid Dak, I was kind of like, I actually think they ought to change their mind about that. But it was clearly like written in stone, and that's what it is. And so he ends up splitting up with them, even though I think in the end it was probably the wrong thing to do. Now there's Deion. See, there's a big part of me that thinks Jerry doesn't want somebody who's going to take the attention from him.
Yep.
There's a big part of me that thinks that he also loves a show and a headline. He'll get it constantly with him. And I wonder if Jerry does think he's a really good NFL caliber coach. In fairness to Deion, he was great at at Jackson State, which, okay, let's see what happens when you get to, a bigger program. Frankly, I thought he did a unbelievably great job there. That was an also ran in a tough spot, and they won a lot, and they produced a Heisman Trophy winner, and his son turned out to be a very good quarterback. And the rest of the team was they said last year he was going to stink. He did not last year. So do I think he's going to hire him? I do, actually. I do. I think this is kind of Jerry's last stand. You think he's going to hire Kellen Moore? Like, they're going to make fun of him, even if it's the right choice. They're going to make fun of him.
Yep.
I think he's actually going to do this. I think he's going to hire Deion Sanders.
I can't help but get my Redskins PTSD going off on this one. This one feels very Marty. That like the season went bad. Jerry decided he was going to fire McCarthy, started to reach out to Deion, get the feelers going. McCarthy turned things around. So Jerry had to act like, oh yeah, let's see how it goes down the stretch. If they actually wanted to work something out, there would have been more reports about it last week. But also, why did Dallas deny his interview with Chicago and then come out with a statement on Monday going, we both decided we're going to go our separate ways? And Schefter said they never even got to contract negotiations. Yeah. That tells me this was all for show, dog and pony show by Jerry.
Yes.
He took the week and then said, oh, didn't work out. He's a free agent now. This was very performative for the last, not just week, the last month, I would say.
I agree.
Performative.
Yeah, I think McCarthy, he really helped his own cause by keeping things together there, because it was, like I said, it was kind of widely known in the middle of the season. This was it. Like, they were not going to re-sign him. And the way the team played, I thought, was very reflective of him keeping it together. Deion Sanders, head coach of the Cowboys, that's unbelievable. I will say this also, too, because this is making the rounds. He can't hire Jason Witten now.
Yeah, right.
They'll think he's a crazy old man. Like, Jason Witten has not been a head coach anywhere. Like, you can't. This was like, who tried to hire someone? Houston tried to hire Josh McCown.
Yeah, they
like, remember?
Yeah.
And everybody was like, guy, he's never been even like an assistant coach. Are you crazy?
Right.
And he can't do this now. He's got to go big or go to somebody who, you know, has a lot of experience and at least is beyond reproach. Like, you can yell and scream about the way New England got to Mike Vrabel, but in the end, are you really complaining about the hiring of Mike Vrabel? Like, he's clearly qualified to be the head coach. Deion's a risk if you're not going to, but you can't hire Witten because everyone goes, why would you let Mike McCarthy go to bring in a guy who's never coached before? You can't do that. So I don't think he can do it. And I actually now believe it will be Deion. It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, there's you can't put the toothpaste back in the toothpaste tube. Like, no. If it's not him, it's going to be disappointing now. So
that's right.
Have fun on First Take where they go, oh, the Cowboys couldn't land Deion, because we don't know how the aftermath's going to work if they don't hire him, right? Like, or if Deion comes out and says, oh, they couldn't afford me, you know, like, there could be some things he says that puts Jerry into the ground, so to speak, when it comes to hiring the next head coach.
That's right. All right, let me take a quick break. Brave Watch the show. Be at 6:30 in Sports Capital. All right, welcome back. Let's see. Let me just get to the Caps because I watched them last night on K9 Night, Joe. K9 Night, dogs at the stadium, Joe. Caps got a shutout. Ducks are not very good, but they shut them out and they beat them. And all's good in the hood again. Capitals, through now past the halfway point of the season, went through what I thought was interesting. They went through a period of time there where everybody was like, I don't know, man. Like, they don't look like that same team. Hockey seasons are long. And they seem to have come out on the other side where they're winning again and beating bad teams at home and shutting them out. I got no complaints.
No, this is a soft part of the schedule. Right now they're in the middle of it, so I kind of predicted they would turn things around a little bit. The two big storylines, though, heading into like this past week or two of play, has been get the third line going. They called up this kid Ethan Frank, undrafted guy, is 26 years old, finally got his shot. Got a point in his first game. He scored in the last two games. He's fast as hell. He is awesome on the ice in terms of speed. He's the actual spark plug they needed to get that third line going. So it's been awesome to see that work out for him. The other thing that happened was Charlie Lindgren got hurt last week, got put on IR because of the concussion spotter. So I don't know if it's a concussion or a neck injury or what, but he's out for at least a week, right? And I talked about it a little bit on my show yesterday. Logan Thompson's going to get the brunt of the work here. They play every other day. There's no back-to-backs for a long time. We're going to find out here if Logan Thompson is the guy. And I think he has been the guy, but he hasn't separated himself from Charlie Lindgren enough for everyone to anoint him. Well, all he did last night was get the first shutout of the season when he's been anointed the number one guy as long as Lindgren is out here. So those two storylines really came to a head yesterday. You're right. The Ducks aren't good, but they didn't let in a goal. They played very well defensively and offensively. A really good home win for them. Let's see how they do in Ottawa tomorrow night.
I haven't mentioned this. I've wanted to for a few days now. I did a show, off on my own yesterday. But I did see the message that Craig Laughlin put out where he explained why he'd missed games earlier this year and why he's going to miss games starting towards the end of the month for hopefully not the rest of the season, but potentially for the rest of the season. He needs to have heart surgery that he revealed to everybody. I guess it's a congenital issue. So that means it's been with him his entire life. I guess he's now found at this point in his life this issue. I'm happy he's getting it taken care of, obviously. Heart surgery is very scary, though, no matter what. So I just want to join the parade of people that have appreciated his work for so long. Him and Joe are standard bearers in this area. Now that I, feel like I'm a peer of theirs, because I do the same thing, obviously on radio as opposed to television. And I've said this to Joe, and we make fun of Locker a lot because, everybody loves making fun of Locker a little bit. They're amazing. I mean, like, we are so fortunate to have them doing this night by night by night. Joe could teach a master class on play-by-play, and Locker is perfect. It's just the perfect person with him. Their dedication to this team has been amazing. Their longevity in doing it. They're perpetually excited doing it. I mean, think about how many years they've been doing this. They're perpetually excited doing it. And I hope he gets back before Ovi breaks that record, because he should be in the booth when it happens. So I really, really, really am wishing Craig Laughlin the best. Hopefully the doctors take care of him. Hopefully his heart responds to whatever the procedure is. And hopefully he's well enough to get back there before Ovi puts that last biscuit in Wayne's basket, Joe.
I knew you were going to let that go with one more Locker impression. I share all the same sentiments as you do, but I'll even say this. Locker is literally one of the nicest human beings ever. I mean, whether you're media or a fan, that's Locker. Like, he is not putting on a facade or anything like that. He is one of the nicest human beings. He's kind of the godfather of all of the media, too. He's happy to bring everyone in with open arms. Anytime you meet him, he is one of the nicest guys. So get well, Locker.
Yeah, get well. Hope to see you back in the booth really, really soon. All right, that'll do it for today. Talk to you tomorrow. Brad Watch the Show, ESPN 630, The Sports Capital.